What's up, y'all? It's Kymmy Coco, your host of Connecting the Dots from Innovative Black Station. And today, our episode is being brought to you by So Mississippi Candles. Let me tell you, they smell so good. And the one that we're burning right now is sugar cookie, and it really makes you want sugar cookies. It smells like somebody's grandma is making cookies, and it just makes you feel like at home. But there's a whole bunch of different other flavors. So hit So Mississippi up if you want one. They just happen to be made by our own Dom Trillmonger. So tell everyone where they could get it from.
You can go to soulmississippi.com.
And that's SEAUX. Yes. So like the Mississippi Gulf Coast Creole. So yeah.
Louisiana vibes mixed with a little Mississippi.
Exactly.
So Mississippi Candle Company, soulmississippi.com. Make sure to go check us out.
Cool. And we have a special guest today, and I'm so excited because for so long, I have been trying to get him here, and I see him all the time, and I'm just like, I need to sit down and talk to you, and we need to get you on the show. So guess who's here? Scotty Smart, Change Creator.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And he also, he has some shirts too, and I bought one, and it's pink. But this is his brand, the Change Creator, because he is definitely making some changes around the community. Anything that you've ever heard me say about young millennials and Gen Z, he's like totally opposite. This is the best. Let me tell you, I talk so much crap about young people, and I always, if you watch a previous episode, make sure you go back and check out some of our old episodes, and you see how much we've grown and how much, we've been in tune with what's going on around in Atlanta and just, the news and the community and all that stuff. So if you go back and look at some of our episodes, make sure you check out our YouTube channel, Innovative Black Station. You're going to hear me talk about some young people and the things that they've not gotten together. Well, he's gotten them together. And back in the summertime when we were seeing a lot of protests and movement going on in the community around Atlanta, around the country, around the world, he was so involved, and I saw him, and I'm gonna let you hear something, and this is what struck me, and I don't know if you remember this, and I don't know what it is, but it's still on my phone, so I'm gonna say
I don't know.
I was impressed.
I'm intrigued
by it.
to see.
So let's listen to Scotty here.
All in one, and what they're doing is they're fighting us together. They're fighting us from the police officers to people doing the autopsies to people filing the police reports.
Oh, no, that is. I know what that is.
Unison. So in order for us to fight this, we have to move in unison to move together. It's good to see so many new faces getting a part of the movement now, but you gotta understand this is a long fight. This family's been fighting for 7 years. Ms. Robinson's been fighting for 4 years. We have to keep this momentum going. We have to understand how this process works. We have to understand the levels of corruption that we're fighting. We have to understand that we have to educate each other and stay in unison with each other. We're fighting police brutality. We're fighting oppression. We're fighting so many things. But what we're looking for, when we make our demands, we have to demand transparency. We have to demand accountability. We have to demand transparency and accountability.
Okay.
Sounds about right.
That young man, and I was like, this young man is really has a grip on what's going on. But then later on, when I saw him again, I saw his dad.
You saw my dad before?
I saw your dad.
Where was
at the Capitol.
Oh, yeah.
And he was giving a speech, and I said, okay, that's where he got it from. Okay, now it makes sense. So tell me, seriously, how you, at your young age, became so in tune with what's going on in the community, and what made you want to start to speak out and become a figurehead in what's going on?
There's a number of things within that question. For one, there was a void within our community. There's a void there, and I just felt like there needs to be someone to speak on it. Most of the time I'm usually the background guy. I kind of feel comfortable playing the background role, but I've always been intrigued by criminal justice and social injustice. And so I always wanted to just make sure that our community was aware of what was going on. A lot of times you can't really be upset with people if you don't inform them about what's going on.
Right.
So a lot of times they just have no clue. And so at first I just started using my platform just to keep folks updates of what was going on, things that I just cared about.
Right.
And I realized I cared about a lot of things that most of our culture doesn't. And so I just became want to keep people informed about what was going on. And then from that, it became a little bit more vocal. It took a while for me to embrace the vocal side of it, though. It's not really my thing. It's not my thing.
I think one of these days over the summer, I think I talked to you and I pulled you over to the side and I'm just like, when are you gonna like fully embrace the fact that you are really a leader in the community and in the movement, and that you really have something going here? And I think people are gonna pick up on you.
I think I accepted it a little bit more this summer. I came out of my comfort zone and embraced it. I've started to embrace it more. So yeah, I think that's just where I'm at. I'm at that point now where I've accepted it, I'm embracing it, and I don't have a fear of it. It's just that like I said, I'm just more of an introvert. You know, I keep to myself.
Right.
But when I do speak, I always want to make sure that it is powerful. But now I'm getting asked to speak a lot more, so I'm just embracing it. It's not really my comfort zone, but I think sometimes you got to step outside of your comfort zone if you really want to achieve a level of greatness.
Absolutely. So how much of a part did your dad play in that? Did he?
A lot of it.
Really?
A lot from the very beginning. Like that's what inspired everything from the beginning. Well, I've been doing activism for about 6 years. When I started it, it was inspired by him. When I was a teenager, maybe preteen, he had an all-boys summer camp called Mdogo Kondo, which stood for Young Warriors in Swahili. And around his 50th birthday, we were having a conversation, and I was just saying that we need more things like that in our culture at this point in time. That's how I felt then. And him being the father that he is, he challenges me a lot. And so it was one of those, well, why don't you do something about it? And so that's when I started brainstorming the Smart Foundation idea and the concept of some men are really trying. What I wanted to brand intelligence back into our culture. Our slogan is smart is the new cool. So that became the thing at that time. 6 years ago, I started the Smart Foundation. Well, just even started saying it. And to this point, I've branded it so much that it's become my nickname. Most people think it's my last name now. So
I did.
Exactly. Good marketing, right?
You heard me. I was just like, okay.
Yeah. So the Smart Foundation was born.
Tell us about it. What's going on at the Smart Foundation?
The Smart Foundation is everything. It's the positive influence in our community. It's us being able to say that we are doing the work. It's I think a lot of times in activism, especially in social media activism, you see a lot of people talking about things, but what are they actually doing? So you got to get past that, past the cute post, you know what I mean? Like, it's like the other day you saw everybody posting about MLK, but not a lot of people living like that. Not a lot of people even in that space. And so we want to make sure we are a part of the change that we wanted to see. It was just holding ourselves accountable. So it began with us sending trucks to Houston during Hurricane Harvey. We partnered with a guy that owns a trucking company, and we sent like 4 truckloads. That was our first event, and after that, it just snowballed into we just send kids to prom every year. We supply school uniforms. We do Black History plays. Feed the homeless once a month. So it just evolved into us just being there for the community. There's a lot of people who we make sure we feed weekly, month. There's a lot of private things that we do with a lot of families that are in need. So we just try to be there for people, and because we realize like it's really hard to ask for help. And so if you get to that point, and I'm able to be in a position where I'm blessed enough to help in when it's needed, I try my best to. So
that's awesome. So we also saw you participate in the Exxon boycott.
Definitely. That was wonderful.
So tell us about that. You guys boycotted Exxon, and you guys were out there every day for how many days? Well,
the boycott lasted 66 days. I was informed about the boycott around about day 16. So there's this guy named Jones. He goes by Scapegoat Jones. He was from that area, and he started the boycott. He was there from the day one. He really went up there to see. There was a video that went viral.
Yeah, I saw the video. The video everyone has probably seen. The guy
all over the news now. Well, it was a clerk was getting in an argument, and he had said he didn't give a F about the black community or the black neighborhood. I can't remember verbatim, but when the guy Jones saw it, who started the boycott, he went up there just trying to see what was going on, and he was actually disrespected by the owner himself, calling him a food stamp cockroach. And so and I don't know, I think that's one of the most powerful things I've seen, because to take an insult like that and to strategize, you know what I mean? That's what we got to do more of, is not think with emotion, but think with strategy. And for him to strategize a boycott. So then around about day 16, Mimi, which is another person from that community from East Atlanta, she lived in Birmingham at the time, and she told she was coming back from Birmingham. Her mom lives in that neighborhood, so that's where she grew up, where the boycott took place. And so she had told me she was coming back to join the boycott or whatever. And she was just like a social media friend of mine at that point. Like, I didn't know either of them.
Oh, wow. Right.
I didn't know either of them at the point when it happened. And so personally, so I just took the call and was like, well, if you're coming from Birmingham, then I'm on the other side of town. That ain't nothing, you know what I'm saying? So and then about I think it was day 15 or 16 is when I actually, it was my first day there, and then it just snowballed until we put them out of business. So it's just a sign of unity, and just a sign of like people coming together and standing together and just showing what we really are capable of, and that we don't have to tolerate disrespect, and that we do control this economy with our money. And if we really just understood how to hold it and understood the economical value that we hold and put it in with direction, then we'll have a bigger impact within our own communities.
So now they are going to buy.
Yes, that is the plan. We are trying to buy the boycott. So if anybody that's watching that would love to donate, anything would help. You know what I mean? We want to, do something historical. It was already historical to show people that we could actually put them out of business. That was the first step.
So if anyone wants to donate to help them purchase the gas station, how do they do that?
The GoFundMe is on my page, on my Instagram link in my bio, as well as Scapegoat Jones, which would be Jones who started it as well. And it's in Mimi's bio as well. I think hers is Miss Mimi Consulting. I think it's an underscore now. I don't know exactly where it is.
Yeah, we'll forward some of that information. But, we'll put it on the page, and then you guys
so
can donate.
A lot of our bios.
That's a huge undertaking, and I'm very proud of you guys, because I saw how consistency.
That's it, though.
Was really
That's
the
it.
key to.
That's it.
So what do you so then another thing, we saw you on Fox News. How did you get to go on there? I was kind of like, why is he wasting his time with these people? And they ain't really trying to hear what he got to say. They just want somebody on there that they could try to pull under and contradict everything he says.
But they're going into it though, right? That's setting a reasonable expectation for yourself. So before I went into that environment, I knew what I was getting myself into. You know what I mean?
How was that like? Did you didn't have any expectations, like you said. You go in there,
I did have expectations. That's what I'm telling you. I knew what they were going to try to do. I'm like the kid that enjoys bullying the bully. You know what I mean? So if you think you're just going to pick on somebody, I'm going to come in and just mess with you and see really how tough you are.
Yeah.
And it's in a mental warfare in the state. So in a sense, I considered it going into the lion's den. But I also knew that I was going to go in there swinging. You know what I mean? And I like my chances. So
are you going to go back?
I don't think they're going to invite me back. I've been invited twice.
I
got invited twice, and the second time I went left a little bit. I insult people at times, and I shouldn't have, but I called him a token black man on national television, and I don't know, and he's like a person that's on there regularly, which I 100% stand behind it, but I think like once I said that, it deflected the conversation I was trying to have, and so I do take that on myself.
Right.
But it was a good moment for our culture, because we gotta start calling people out. You know what I mean? Like,
you're gonna bring me on here, you're just gonna try to play me. Like, how about if I just tell you what I really think this is?
Yeah. So if you're gonna be on here as another black man, for one, it didn't make sense to me that you would have two black men on a platform discussing whiteness in America.
They have an agenda, and they have
and that's why I went in and attacked it. Like as soon as the first thing in my mouth was, I don't even know why two black people are having this conversation. As two black, he can't give me an opinion on whiteness in America because he's not a white. He can tap dance for that side as much as he wants to, but he still does not embody whiteness in America. So he can't give me an honest perspective on that.
Seeing that though as a theme, like.
But I think it's something that America has to face. And I think that's the whole thing with the whole capital thing. You know what I mean? It all overflowed into me. For me, even in June, saying we have to stop sweeping white supremacy and whiteness in America under the rug. That is what you get. That is the boiling point of everything.
I'm glad you said that, because that brings me to one of the things I wanted to talk about today. And I'm all for exercising your right to protest. To me, we had to do it.
Definitely.
It had to happen. And even for people who don't choose that avenue, people that donate their time, their money, their space, to social justice, even if you're not even of the thought of any of this being real, right? You had to have come to a point on that day that you said, oh, you know, like even if you ignored everything, even if you ignored all the police brutality, all the murder, all the stuff that's going on in the world, so many things happen over the last 12 months that is undeniable. I'll give you one example. The police, black people have been screaming for, I don't know, 100, 200, 300 years, ever since it was established that, you know, they were infiltrated by white supremacists, if not, you know, some of them are head up by white supremacists.
Yes.
So then all of a sudden this week, the Capitol riots, or last week, 2 weeks ago, the Capitol riots happened, and everybody's like, there's someone that was in the police department that was there.
Exactly.
There was a chief, there was a deputy,
right.
There was someone in the military. Like, hello?
Right, we've been saying, and that's why it had to happen.
And when we said, you know, listen to the people about defunding the police, they might be onto something. And then all of a sudden, the police have like military gear, and you know, when Black Lives Matter was at the Capitol, they had shields and they had this and they had that, and then all of a sudden, like, nobody had anything. The police have all this gear, this riot gear. The hospitals, they're cleaning their N95 masks every night, and they're having to like, what do you? If anything needs to be learned, like, listen to black people, please. Like, we don't know what else to do. We don't know how else to tell you what we've been saying. Listen to black people. That's like all I want people to know. And even if, you know, everybody doesn't take a medicine from the same kind of spoon, right? Like, if you can't take it from me, take it from a young man, take it from, you know, an older man, take it from somebody. But we need all those different faces that are kind of on the same page saying the same thing. And that's why I said I love that there's a young black guy from the culture, because you could be a young black guy like the guy that was on Fox News. Like, he's
right.
he's a black guy.
He's a black guy, yeah.
He's culturally, he's clueless.
Exactly.
So, like, you were in Lil Baby's video. I don't know which baby it is. Is it the little baby or the baby?
The little baby.
Okay.
Little baby. That's a bigger picture.
And I see him doing a lot in the community and trying to get more activists involved in his, at least his, I don't know, his videos. But I see that he donates and he gets involved and he really brings you out. You got on stage with him at one of the shows, right?
No, not at the show. That was
the parking lot concert.
Oh, for the Juneteenth. We had him as a guest at the Juneteenth concert as well.
Okay, that's why.
Yeah, so he's friend with Antonio Brown.
My nerves are bad, but I do remember if I would have stayed, I would have seen you and him on stage together. But I think all that is just so wonderful. So back to what we were saying. Now we have a new president, which I don't want to say arguably, actually, factually was elected because of black people. Yeah. And so we need to make sure that he's held accountable just like everybody else is held accountable for the issues that we face. And so obviously one of your issues is criminal justice reform. In your travels and in your work around the community, which case has struck you the most, I don't know, blatantly, like, just racist?
It's weird because in the social media realm of things that go viral, when you're in that space, it's a little different than when you actually get into the space of activism and you're like meeting families. Yeah. And you're there and it becomes personal. Right. And like, so I think it's not one that sticks out, but it's just like learning the families and being there throughout the entire process. Like, to give you an idea, earlier this week was the 2-year anniversary of the passing of Jimmy Atchison, which is didn't get a bit. We had the Atchison family on here before, and we talked to them. So like, I've known them since it happened. Wow. Like, I actually walked the crime scene. So 2 years ago, it's like around. I met them a few days after it actually happened, and so to go through an entire process with a family like that, and just to see the strength of it, and that's the stuff that really gets to me. Not really. Unfortunately, I've experienced death on a lot of levels in my personal life, and so like the things that are most people are attached to. Honestly, if it's not a life or death situation, I'm able to disconnect from it myself, and I think that's just like personally, that's what helps me to deal with everything that goes on. Is being able to what I've already dealt with in my life. But I think None of them wow me anymore. I'm never surprised or shocked. But again, I just think like the strength of the families is always a big thing to me, to see what they go through the entire process, because it's a long process. Like some families don't get justice, and even like I was talking to Vincent Truitt's cousin yesterday, and I didn't know that a part of the story was that his mom got the call about him dying 3 hours before her 35th birthday. You know what I mean? When you get to that point of that reaction, that damn, you know, like it's that portion of the when you get to people, the stories that don't go viral, you know, and how we work on those to get their voices heard, and how we amplify those is really what really gets to me.
I think that that march that day that we were at, one of the worst ones for me that really broke my heart was Monteria Robinson, Jamarian Robinson, and the young man. I think they got to be from South Georgia.
Kendrick Johnson. Yeah, those are two gruesome ones though. Yeah, is like both of those are real gruesome.
You know, anything that I'm like anything I could do, lend my voice, lend my ear, like I really wanted to help them, because those people are still trying to
8-9 years later. Yeah. And it's one of the biggest cover-ups in American history. You know, it's one of the biggest cover-ups in American history.
And here's the thing, guys. Another case that was kind of brought to the national attention, and it kind of speaks to how these families have been going through this stuff and how deeply ingrained into the system these things are, is is it Brunswick? Where's
in North Georgia?
No, in
What?
Ahmaud Arbery. Is that in Brunswick?
It's close. I think that's Valdosta. It's in a similar area. It's close. It's very close to where Kendrick actually.
But how?
It's actually in the same. It's in the same vicinity. You're right.
But just how
that's South Georgia for you. Yeah.
South Georgia, and how they had the audacity. Like,
if that didn't get national attention,
they were doing the right thing, and they were just like, "Hey, this is like, you know, we just shot him, we killed him." It was, again, like, when you see that happen, blatantly obvious, it's like God is trying to tell y'all again, like, hello, this is what goes on down here. Can we fix it?
Right.
Now that you can't sweep it under the rug anymore.
Because this is just the stuff you hear about.
This is just the stuff you hear about. And some of that anger that we saw at the Capitol, people had the nerve to really go on social media and be like, oh, well, you know, all summer we saw them. Like, are y'all really concerned about the Wendy's that got burnt down in Southwest Atlanta?
Oh, nah.
Like, did y'all really? I mean, don't get me wrong, you know.
And just to interject, once again, also proving that nothing to do with Black Lives Matter movement, nothing, the people that did that.
No, of course not. But, like, the people that, whatever happened to Wendy's, on the grand scheme of things, I'm just looking at it from a higher level,
definitely.
Of the world events. Did that Wendy's equal to the Capitol riots? Like, I mean, just
but see, when you ask
it's
that,
an excuse.
You have to
always
ask,
say that. They always use.
You have to see the cause and effects of it, right? So, what caused the Wendy's to burn down? And what caused the Capitol riot? It's a totally different basis of anger.
But that to me doesn't make any sense, because y'all clearly, because we're having to do all this, and we have been having to do all this for so long, and you hear people out in the street screaming, hey, Black Lives Matter, we matter, because they don't think you care.
They don't.
So if you don't care, why all of a sudden was that Wendy's like?
You know what I think is a good point that I hear a lot of people are harping on. It goes back to the law enforcement, where you don't see Bruce Wayne and Batman at the same place at the same time. Like, you know, and so when it comes to reactions, when it comes to how things are dealt with in this country, once again, we already know what things are. Like, it's been proven. We've seen it time after time. And we still have to go out of our way to get it noticed. But you can literally have it's rioters at the Capitol that got arrested and they're back at home right now.
They got bailed out.
Yeah.
Do you remember? I don't know if you were there this day, but Monteria Robinson had a march for her son to bring awareness to his case downtown, and one of the cowboys for Trump came through there on his horse. And, you know, he was talking to us about how, you know, Trump is not racist, wasting his time. You know, the brothers from movement that carry their rifles around with them, they quickly shut that down. But he was at the Capitol. And it just was so. I was like, I can't believe they didn't see all this stuff coming.
No, but you gotta, again, it's like having a bad child, right? That this child is bad, but the mom is the problem.
Right.
The mom allows it to happen. You know what I mean? The mom is the one that like, no, my baby ain't bad. Not my baby. You know what I mean? That's how America is towards white supremacy. You keep on just coddling and not even giving it a slap on the wrist, but just no.
So that just makes him feel like he can keep.
They keep on, but think about it. A lot of times when we commit the same crimes, we don't have the same penalties. And so when you keep on coddling them and you keep on allowing them to,
empowering them.
You're telling them that the system is not going to punish them the same. And so therefore they don't care. So therefore, unless you make an example, like if all of them don't get 10 years for this, then the possibility of it happening again is very likely, because you have to have a repercussion.
But that goes to the example of, like, I've seen this conversation take place to where a white person doesn't feel the same when a cop pulls them over as a black person. When a black person get pulled over, our stomach drop.
Yeah, we're like, oh my God.
Right, we think we might die.
But a white person, it's just like, shit, they taking their chances. Like, they ain't thinking like that. And I just think the experiences is different. It's just like they don't really understand our experience. And it's like we really can't explain it to them. Like, so it's like we have to take action.
But
they don't want to understand.
I say they don't explain, because it's just like, let's just take, for example, I'm not married. I can take from all the marriages I've seen and talk about that experience, but I've never experienced that to be like, okay, damn, this is what marriage feels like. These people never experience what it feels like to be black. Like, we going through this shit every day. So it's like, bro, how no child see this? It's just like, because we see it's in our face every day. And it's just like, man, I feel like we're responsible for.
But at what point do you understand? You don't have to experience something to understand someone else, to even empathize with it.
I think they will understand when we make it clear, when we make them understand. And it's just like, once we start moving into like how we want to move and implementing what we want, they ain't gonna have no choice but to understand. Because we know this is a capitalistic country. If we just shop all black and they're not getting no money no more, they're gonna understand. They're gonna understand through action. There's not gonna be no wars. They're gonna understand through action. But
then that goes into the strategic energy that black people have. And white hatred is a lot stronger than black unity, unfortunately, in this country. So therefore, one thing I did learn about the boycott is that a lot of black people don't give a damn about black people. So that's another reality of ours. Problem, and I think we just have to face all of it in a sense, you know what I mean, and be able to address it all and to have those uncomfortable conversations about it. And that's what I really try to do.
So I've always wanted to address the issue of home first.
Definitely.
And
that's what
everybody doesn't need to be involved in that conversation.
With black, it's home first with black, like as a whole.
That should be like that. It should be home first. It should be home first. And as an elder in the community, I feel like if we respect our elders more and kind of listen to see what we've gone through from what our parents told us, there's a disconnect between Gen millennials and the boomers. There's a total.
But do you know why?
And in the middle of that is Gen X, and we're like, hey, we need to listen to. I think it's our problem. I think it's our fault. I think it's Gen X's fault.
I don't know how you label the gens. I'm not good with that. But when
so you're a millennial. Are you over 25? Yes. You're a millennial. Okay. Your dad is Gen X.
He's 56. No, he might be older than that now. Yeah, he's somewhere. He's 57.
Okay. He's borderline probably boomer, right? Like,
I
think he's Gen X.
Boomer,
he's 60, yeah, he's 64.
But your grandparents would be boomers.
Okay.
So
I think there's a huge disconnect within our community. I think one of the things when I first started activism, I used to just sit in the rooms and just watch. And I used to just study our culture from afar, like just being a fly on the wall and just watching. And the biggest thing was how we talk to each other. It's a lot of people who, and communication is the biggest thing. It's a lot of people who actually want to help each other, but can't talk directly to each other in a manner.
Communication is and
it's not even that they're saying the wrong things, but it's how they're saying it. And so it's understanding not to come off as aggressive when you're trying to help. and understanding how to ask a question instead of talking to someone or talking at someone, but actually asking them a question so that they can learn to understand.
So you mentioned a few times social media activism, and there's a way to positively do social media activism to bring awareness, to post, to go to do. There's also a bit of selfish celebrity in social media activism because I say this all the time. Some people, if they're not the captain, they'll sink the whole ship.
Right, they will. There's a lot of that.
But that's what I don't want your generation to get caught up in, because I see that happen a lot.
There's a lot of that already going on.
And and I don't like that. But see, just like how we all are together here and we've seen each other out in the community, I'm a huge believer in your vibe is your tribe.
Definitely.
You are very passionate about bringing awareness to let people know what's going on. So am I.
Right.
So if everybody that puts that vibe out, that they really just want to help and to bring awareness and to have a sense of community, we're all gonna get together and empower each other. And
that's true, but a lot of people say that.
How do we weed out the people that aren't being genuine? They're really gonna bring down the whole movement eventually.
They weed themselves out though.
Okay.
They weed themselves out because eventually, it's like. I'm not gonna be messy. But I mean by that, right? But what I mean, but what I'm saying is that, like, say for instance, someone within the movement doesn't like me, right? And that happens from time to time. Who doesn't necessarily know me personally, but from afar they may have negative things to say, what they may have thought of me, right? And they say that to you, but you have a better understanding. Like, that don't. Have you actually talked to that person?
Right,
like, have you actually had a one? And so eventually, you get to a point where you understand that someone's not addressing something, right? So therefore, it's like, if you have an issue with me, anybody, I'm more intellectually confrontational. I'd rather you have a conversation with me about how you feel about me, and then having some gossip or some little childish stuff going on behind the scenes. Yeah, and so a lot of that is maturity. You know what I mean? And being able to discuss your differences and that's the communication disconnect. You see what I'm saying? So you already have idea of what I may think or how I may be, but you don't necessarily know me, and you never even had the opportunity or took the opportunity to address me about it. So therefore, now you're spreading a lie or a rumor about me.
Yeah, it's definitely communication,
but we don't know how to talk to each other.
We have to learn how to talk to each other. So what do we do, y'all? What do you suggest we do?
I think the biggest thing is, for one, we have to be in love with ourselves, and so
you have to love being black. I think a lot of how some of the blacks for Trump got snatched into that is their hatred of black people.
Exactly.
Like everything that they say about black people, the Trump people, those people, there are black people who genuinely believe that. That's the appeal.
And that's what I was getting at with him. I was saying, like, the hatred that white people have towards us is.
There's some of us that feel like that too.
Right.
I know a lot of older people that got snatched into that.
A lot of, man, that's funny.
It's a whole sector of older people that are like that, for sure.
Man, anybody that's over 65.
Oh, the boomers.
Partially has a bit of racism in them.
But I think that
it's partially racist. Anybody over 65 is partially racist, but Congress is
like
averages.
The Walkers, you know what I'm saying? They out there.
But you gotta think about it, like,
they've been through a lot, man.
Yeah, like the kids who were teenagers 50 years ago are 65 years old now. So they were the ones who were yelling at, the kids that were fighting for segregation. Those are the grandparents now. They are still alive, and so we can't act like we're so far removed from this.
Martin Luther King would have been what, 92?
92, yeah.
These are the same people.
Right.
I think too, like, now, like, people are exposed to more things, like, because those racist people, they just stayed in those small towns their whole life. So
no, they're in Congress.
That's how life is. But now we got social media to where I can see what's going on in California from Atlanta. Yeah. Oh, I can see that. Oh, black and white people, they are cool. Like, so I think it's
right. I think, but see, you have a lot of them in Congress, though. You know what I mean? And a lot of
this is another thing I saw during the movement in the summertime. There was the people that were, marching and protesting and vocal, but then when it came down to vote, those people were like, "Oh, we don't vote. Like, we out.
Like an education.
We don't think voting matters as long as we out here screaming and marching." But it's like, okay, who are you screaming and marching to? The people that have the power to change the shit. So why are you ignoring the process, the voting part?
But how many of them don't know the process?
Well,
And I think that's one of the
That's the biggest
yeah.
thing.
I mean, you protesting with no
For
purpose.
sure.
behind it.
Right.
purpose.
You don't know.
No purpose, and there.
We're not
that's
educated in
what
that.
happened. That's what happened. You know that, right? That's
Yeah.
what happens to a lot of and this has happened from the beginning of time. I mean, from the Black Panthers to the nonviolent movement to the Malcolm X to the Martin Luther King. There's been a huge divide on how to make these things happen.
Right.
So now that we've seen what happened in Georgia, it's undeniable that your vote is very powerful. Listen, they counted the votes 3 times. Then they went to Cobb County and audited the vote. Like, they're still to this day talking about how that's going to be a huge part of the impeachment process because he was making those phone calls to Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, Georgia, if you are a young Black person in Georgia and you're still not convinced on how powerful your vote is, I don't know what else to tell you.
But see, that's the thing. We don't know who to hold accountable. We never was taught the process of what's to be done.
So did you have civics in school? Like, why doesn't anybody know? I
we
really
did,
still can't understand that.
Again, we're not taught how things really relate to real life.
Yeah.
And so you skim through that and you don't hold that on. Once graduation hit, that's over with. Once you get that report, you ain't holding on to that. See, the thing is, and that's why I'm actually working on some self-development books for the youth as well. But it's actually understanding life skills, things that you would have to actually use after high school, and understanding local voting, or even understanding who you hold accountable, the chain of commands when police brutality happens. There's steps of change and how we get things done. But a lot of people don't. We sit and we talk about our issues, but we're really not thinking and talking about solutions.
But another thing that happened over the summer and just during the course of these last 12 months is that you saw how powerful, you saw that Kemp not putting masks on people changed the trajectory of the coronavirus. Like, you saw how important the governor is. Like, he's really calling the shots to how we're going to get money from the federal government and how it's going to be distributed and how important it is for this to be a person that knows how to make good decisions. It's important for this person to be empathetic. It's important for this person.
But
the person we have now has none of those qualities.
But see, a lot of people aren't aware of who holds what positions or how it relates to their everyday life.
How did that skip us? How did young Black people, because the boomers they get it.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I think it goes back to that disconnect. I literally had a friend who I had on. Actually, it's your shirt, Scotty. Some of your gear. I had a shirt that had Huey P. Newton on it. And it's his mugshot. And my friend was like, "Yo, who is that?" And this is this was a guy that loves guns. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
He's cultural, and he didn't know who Huey P. Newton was. And it was a teachable moment, you know what I'm saying? And he was like, he went and checked him out, and he was like, "Yo, you know what I'm saying?"
Fell in love.
Yeah, fell in love, low key.
Right.
And so it's one of those things to where I think older generations are quick to point their finger about you don't know this and you don't know this, but
they didn't teach.
Exactly.
They didn't teach, and I take
but
responsibility.
Also,
and I kind of take responsibility. I say that, but we had that in our hip hop culture. We had that. I say this all the time. We had rappers that strictly talked about Black history, Black culture.
We don't have that though.
African culture,
or it's not the popular guys.
Popular, yeah.
It's not the.
We had that.
Right.
Kim, what would you say that you and you might have always did it, but when would you say you start really taking politics serious and being really involved in it? Because I think too, when you say the boomers, just because they're into it now, don't mean that they were into it in their 20s.
Right.
Time. And I really feel like they should have handed it down, but I just feel like it's just part of the life process.
What made me get into it?
Or when did you feel like you start really paying attention and really being involved like you are now, hardcore politics? Was that something you always did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think that it depends on what you're around and what you're exposed to.
And I think too, like you said, okay, so my dad, he's from Jim Crow South. He was drafted. He didn't have the opportunity to choose whether or not he wanted to go into the military. When he got drafted, he had to go to Vietnam, and when he came back, I was born. So I was born into a movement, and my dad, when he came back from Vietnam, having grown up in the Jim Crow South, was thrown into New York, New Jersey area, and he had to kind of learn his way to navigate around this new, it's like being from a different country, because you think, the Confederacy, You know what I'm saying? And you've grown up through all these rules in this Jim Crow era, and then you're like, oh wow, it's different. You know, it's different type of racism. It's not blatant. They're not gonna like chase you, you know, but they might not give you that job. So
right.
I've always just kind of been aware of how the government was different. I knew that I was very, very aware of the difference between the governing of the South and the governing of the North, and how it could change.
But at what time? But then in the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of people got comfortable.
Because we had our own underground economic system, the crack era. We were making money hand over fist, and we didn't have anything to do with the government.
That's the disconnect right there.
We didn't care what was going on in the government.
Because when we got the money.
We were making money.
But when we got the money, we weren't able to talk to each other anymore.
Right.
So and that's the era where we lost our village mentality. We don't have, now we
then
become
it was
independent.
like cutthroat.
Now it was,
Now we could.
Now you can't talk to another person. Remember when people used to say, oh, if his child come on my house, I'm gonna beat his kid. You can't talk to another person, child like that no more.
That person's father might be in the mob or a drug dealer or something.
Right. But we lost our village mentality.
Yeah.
And so it starts from that. But it depends on, and then now we're in this space of creativity, and now the hardest thing is for us to work together. So we all have different.
It's still competition now.
But it's that crabs in the barrel mentality.
But I also think that too, there's a lack of the ability for people that are over 35 to understand that they are the elders now.
I think
that's hard to accept though.
But that's a part of the village. There's always elders in a village, and then without elders,
and I think that's what allowed me
to
to embrace more of the leadership role within this wave of activism that took place over the summer, because it was such a newer wave, and I was like, oh, I guess I am the elder statesman now. Like, okay, and, you know, it doesn't have to be. There's a bridge between the Griggs, then. There's a 20-year gap in there, and I'm like in a 10-year space.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like we I feel like it's a narrative that we keep pushing. Like, it's power in the tongue. Like, if we keep saying that there's no unity, it's never gonna be that, because that's gonna always be the excuse. Well, there ain't no unity in the black.
Well, we just have to do it. We're doing it right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, we have somebody from each.
It is unity. It might not be the majority, but there is unity, and we just have to build on it.
Well, I would say unity isn't the norm.
Oh, I can go for
That's
that.
what I would say. I would say that it
But
isn't.
I just feel like we have to be intentional.
There's very small pieces that are forming together, but again, it also, you have those people in the same space that aren't as unified, and they're acting as leaders within our community, and so therefore they're in it for their own selfish reasons, and it always slows us down a while.
Yeah, it
slows
us down because it takes people time.
We also are fighting against a culture of self-destruction that we've embodied. You know, almost in the sense of rap culture is really self-destructive, because 9 times out of 10 you get a kid that made it out the hood and he gets killed. So he had the opportunity to put his family in a financial better space for the rest of their lives, but he gets killed. You know, you got the that story repeats itself. I mean, the King Vons, the Pop Smoke over and or you have the culture where he still want to be a street nigga and he ends up committing a crime, and now he got to go sit down. You know what I'm saying? So both of those entities in itself are of self-destruction that we're feeding into, that we feel like we have to have. And so we really, like, again, we have to be able to address and have these uncomfortable conversations about where we are.
Just like voting, and I say this all the time, just like your one vote counts, your follow counts on social media. We have to stop following people that are aiding and abetting that.
Endorsing that, we have to
those toxic relationships that you see on all these.
But we already embraced it for so long.
Objectifying of women, black, like all that. Like,
but do we stop watching those? Like, is our culture strong enough to stop watching those housewife shows? You know what I mean?
We are,
because when you literally watch years on years of 40-year-old women catfight all day. Right. What do you expect?
I feel like
and people really be thinking they housewives. Like, what? This is not how I want my wife to act. Like, this is terrible. This is a high school.
I feel like
that's it.
Listen, the ratchet shit gonna happen, but we have to basically control it. Like, let it be on a black platform.
And it's okay. Like, you know, it's nothing wrong with
platform.
it.
Let's capital. If they go, let's not letting them capitalize on it.
Right. Yeah.
But also,
the only thing I always ask for black people is balance. That's all we want. We want to be treated.
Balance.
You know what I'm saying? We want to be treated and expected to have the balance of anybody else. You know what I'm saying? It's criminals in every sector of the world. It's scientists. It's doctors in every Yeah, so when you see me and I'm 6'3", you know what I'm saying, and 260 pounds, don't assume I play football. I'm a scientist, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't assume just because you see my brother here with his locks that he's unintelligent and that he's a criminal. No, this is probably one of the most intelligent black men that I know, you know what I'm saying? Don't assume that you gonna have an attitude just because you're a black woman, you know what I'm saying? Don't assume Jay Black soft just because he light skinned, you know what I'm saying?
Those are true that we really feed into. But I think also it also challenges our creatives to create better content. That we can have entertaining content that doesn't demean us. You see what I'm saying? And that's why, like, what I got coming for 2021, y'all, I got some up my sleeve. I'm ready. But yeah, in that content creating space, we have to create better content, that's also entertaining and educational in a sense. And also, you don't cross over into that space where you're just uppity. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, it's a lot of people that get into my position of speaking and having a voice in the community. And then you start thinking you're better than.
Now all of a sudden, you got tie on every time.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna put a lot more blazers on this year. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I went Malcolm on them, but at the same time, you also play into what you want to play into. You know what I mean? And you use what you have to your advantage. But I think as long as we figure out how to be educated in a sense and understand the power of that, like our whole culture made the smart kids lame.
Yeah,
like
right.
That's the crazy. Like when you really, and that's why I named it the Smart Foundation. You know what I mean? Like when we get to the point where we're looking at like a kid that really is going to end up being a doctor or a lawyer or a scientist to a sense is not the popular kid because he wants to get his education because we're so embedded in negativity and seeing, oh, we got to be, and I ain't gonna lie, I come from the west side of Atlanta. I always loved the loud ratchet girl for a long time. You know what I'm saying? The one that could fight the best, who had the first Jordans on. You know what I'm saying? That's what I grew up around. That's what we.
But do you want to marry her and her have your children?
Not at this point, no. I get annoyed by it now. I be like, oh my God, what the hell are we talking about here? Like, this is a pointless. I'm at peace. You know what I'm saying? Now I need that, but we don't embrace that enough. So I think even in the sense of the insecurities that our culture pushes on women happens to do with.
It's hard. It's really hard because you try to keep up with that, and that's why I said that's a black hole that you don't want to go down.
And when you ask me what it is, it's self-love.
Yeah.
When you ask me what do I think,
once you go down that rabbit hole of getting plastic surgery, you have to get this nipped, and then you got to get that tucked, and then you got to get this done, and then it's just like forever and ever you're gonna be under the knife. Mm-hmm. And
that goes down to your mental. And really, how much are you in love with yourself? Like, I would definitely love to be about 6'5". I'd be dunking on people.
Well, you know what?
I would love to just, y'all want to just give me a plastic surgery, stretch a knee out. Like, I promise y'all I'm hard on the court. Like, I promise if I was 6'5", I'd be in the league somewhere. You know what I'm saying? But that's just not the real. So, I never had the Napoleon complex either. As being 5'7", I felt like I was struggling. Like, I just felt like I couldn't get women over 5'8". That just wasn't gonna happen for me. But if we flat-footed, I was all right. She was 5'7", I'm 5'7", we good to go. But man, I think it's your mental though. I think that, and that's like I'm working on the book right now, and it's really just it's called Smarter Than a Motherfucker.
And I like it.
But it's really like mental. You know what I'm saying? It's called, and I'm gonna give you an idea like of what it's about. I'm gonna just give you like different topics, and it really is just like it's strategical, and what you think and what you manifest. And so it's about like being able to control your emotions, being able to identify someone that's trying to trigger you, and being able to understand that some people want an emotional response out of you. You know what I mean? Being able to understand that. Not being afraid to chase your goals alone. You know what I'm saying? Like when I first, activism is cool now, but when I first started, I felt alone.
Yeah.
Like that was 6 years ago. Like nobody was really doing that.
Nobody was doing it.
Nobody
you
was
were always like, what are you marching for? Like,
right. And I had to meet people, you know what I'm saying? Who I had and put myself in those rooms. So you have to really, if you feel like you're doing something right, don't be afraid to go along.
Don't be afraid. Don't.
Also, it's about setting realistic expectations. A lot of people get let down because they have an expectation of what I'm going to do or what you're going to do. I never agreed to that. So you have to have reasonable expectations and realistic expectations for people and yourself. You know what I mean? Putting yourself first. I see so many people that are unhappy with their lives because they're trying to make somebody else happy. I'm like, fuck them. Be happy. Put yourself first. Really, really. And don't care if you offend people for putting yourself first. Like that, so what? I piss people off every day. They'll get over it. Maturity, being able to accept your mistakes, holding yourself accountable, really taking it on the chin. You know, I should have created some content this morning. I overslept a little bit, but that's on me. You know,
self accountability.
Right. Being in a demand of respect. I think our culture, especially women talk about why when men are so disrespectful, but it's very few women that demand a level of respect. And so if you demand that level of respect for yourself, like I don't play about my respect. Like I don't even let you joke about it.
But ladies, I think we need to really know the difference between attention and respect. Like,
of course.
Because nowadays to get attention is way more.
Right. I think also one of the keys is understanding your audience. I'm not going to have the same conversations that I have with you and Don with just anybody. I don't feel like it's worth my energy. There's so many people that want to talk to me about politics and what's going on, but you're really not going to do nothing. I'm not going to really. Oh, you really just want to pick my brain. So you have to be able to, again, understand, I'm not even going to engage in that conversation. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even going to give you that energy.
Right.
We don't think the same. You just want a reaction out of me.
Right.
Again, addressing your insecurities. I think that's a strong thing. Like you got to be able in tune with those, in tune with what you don't like about yourself, but at the same time make those your strengths, like and accept. It's kind of like the Eminem 8 Mile thing. Like if I know you can't say nothing to me that I don't know about myself. Like you call me trash or like and whatever it is, I embrace my insecurities. I don't believe in bad days, so no bad days, and that's to say like we do have bad moments in our lives, but a lot of people carry them all day. So like you have a bad you leaving to go to lunch and you get in an accident. It's 12 o'clock. But how long did you carry that story on? Girl, I just got off work, and can you believe he just hit my car? And then like you talk about it all day long, and some people talk about it the next day, and you talking about, man, that little accident I done had a bad. No, you didn't have a bad day, but that's where you are mentally. You weren't able to let it go, and so that's the thing I want to talk about. Validation. A lot of people feel like they have to be validated by other people. I don't really care what other people think. I live for my validation. I live. So I want to make like everything that I want to write about in Smarter Than a Motherfucker is all your mental health. Understanding that I don't believe in losses. I take every L as a lesson. You know what I mean? Like, and you can readjust from it. You learn from that experience. Like, okay, now I'm a step further in it. I'm not really perfect in it, but I'm a little bit better. So it's like, again, when we talked about public speaking, I'm fearless in it. I'm not afraid of it. I don't think I'm great at it yet, but I feel like if I throw myself out there and almost have an anxiety attack like 5 times, like I almost did at Centennial, because I was nervous. But at the same time, I learned from it. I know, okay, now I know when, I'm just learning throughout the process. Mm-hmm. And then one of the things is called stop being a victim. Like a lot of times we think negatively of ourselves. We think negatively and we say negative things, and then we wonder why our reality is negative. Like, no. And then also prideful, but also knowing that your pride can kill you as well. So your pride and ego driven. So most of it is just more so to take emotion and think more so with strategy. So Smarter, that's the book I'm working on. Hopefully I have it out by my birthday, which is April 19th.
Oh, cool.
So,
and then you can come back and
definitely we do a promo tour and all that stuff.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I'm
sure.
really, really locked in with content right now. We're really about to do some live shows with my podcast. I'm about to get into that more. So I just bought a huge banner, so be just dropping content really just and asking those uncomfortable questions. I really want to, we were talking about something I was thinking I'm probably going to put out today, but have y'all seen that movie American Skin? Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet. Everybody's been talking about it though.
What is it?
It's interesting.
Is it on Netflix?
It's not. It's on Amazon Prime. It's like one of those things you got to rent for like $7. But it's like it's racial profiling. It's a black father. Him and his 14-year-old son get pulled over at 2 a.m. in the morning. Police officer kills the son.
Like how many of those? How much more of that can we see?
But it's a little different. It's a different spin on it this time. The father goes and he holds the police chief hostage. He holds the whole the police department hostage. He holds a trial. He handcuffs all the police officers in the precinct, and he lets out some of the inmates. He lets out some of the inmates, and they hold a court, and he holds an open court in this precinct while like they have the whole building surrounded. It's like a hostage situation.
That's crazy.
But it hints at racial profiling. And I think one of the biggest things we have to really understand in this fight of social justice is that I think racial profiling needs to become a crime, because a lot of that is
It's
what
hard
leads to it.
See, that's one of those things.
But it's not.
It's not. That's
It's
what I'm about
not
to say.
because
It's
you
not.
can tell why. Like when he broke that down in that movie, they break down the scenario, right? And they say, again, you were talking about how we get to this point, and we talked about pulling someone over. You know what I'm saying? They say he was speeding, but in the evidence, there was 2 speed bumps in between the areas, so he was braking to go into the speed bump. But in the uncomfortable truth of the conversation that they had in the police department, the inmates break it down to where the officers understand that, no, you pulled him over because it was a black man driving through that neighborhood. So if you didn't racially profile to think that that person was a criminal from the beginning, the whole situation doesn't even begin.
On a normal everyday basis, though, we've seen this time and time again where it's hard to prove that in court because that's one of those things like it's hard to.
I also think this is what the movie hints at, though. It's a different law. Who makes the law that you are talking about now?
But see, it's also to say that like there's a fear because if you can automatically say that you fear for your life, why did you fear for your life?
You can't prove that you fear for your life.
And that's how they always get off. So that's always your escape is to fear for your life. But are you trained to fear black people? Is that your fear? Are you automatically trained that we're criminals? What does a criminal look like in your mind? You know what I mean? And so that's the breakdown of a fear and racial profiling.
And that's why, one of the things that I'm glad that Bernie Sanders, not Bernie Sanders, I've been seeing his ass all week. And now I keep saying, one of the things that Joe Biden changed right away was, Trump took out the training. The cultural training. Yeah, he took away cultural training for police officers. And then he also promoted that whole 1776 thing, which was to counter the 1619 project, which I don't know if you guys have checked that out, but it's very informational. Like, you have got to read some of this stuff. And even if you don't read that, what I always tell people, I think I say this every week, and I know y'all get tired of it, but go through your family history. Go do your genealogy. Go do your family tree. And some of the stories that you will hear of how your ancestors got to the point where you were born will blow your mind. And it'll give you some sort of, it'll make you feel more empowered to keep up this fight.
Right.
And it'll give you more energy and it'll make you have a reason because you're going to say, oh no, like you are just as entitled to the things of this country as anyone else.
Right.
One of the things that I got into it with that Cowboys for Trump guy that day, he was just like, my grandfather fought, and then so did mine. My grandfather fought.
As Scotty said, you let him trigger you.
Understanding your audience. We just talked about that. That was a waste of your time. I don't even give him that energy.
I didn't even think to say, I was acting off emotion off this. In my mind, I'm giving him facts. Like, you think that your ancestors fought for this country like mine didn't. Like, they always drove this patriotic thing out here. Like our ancestors weren't out there fighting.
But see, even if you understand that, like, that theory in itself is so questionable because they don't know what they be talking about.
And then the thing too, the new
because
thing,
the Confederacy only lasts 4 years. So the Confederacy
not even full 4 years.
Not even a full 4 years. And you lost. So therefore, what we've been doing now, modern day Black Lives Matter movement, which I hate that Black Lives Matter is a thing or whatever.
I don't like that either. Because the way they interpret it is that there was some,
organization.
There's an organization and they all pledge their allegiance to Marxism. Like, what are you guys talking about? No. It's not... It doesn't take a scientist.
And then the representation of the organization is very terrible towards black people.
Terrible,
as well.
And they
let them
run with this Marxist organization.
Yeah, I don't rock with them at all. So no, I'm an activist, but I never was a BLM.
I don't even hashtag that on any of my stuff.
Never liked it.
I just don't.
And I think that's something that's really like I feel like white people.
They want you to. They need to compartmentalize that. They need to have something. Like they need to have that. It's a Black Lives Matter thing, and they took that and they ran with that through every campaign. If you saw Kelly Loeffler, if you saw David Perdue's campaign, they all ran with this. The Black Lives Matter Marxist cancel culture. Like they have all these key terms, and it's all dog whistle racist. It's the new dog whistle racist. Like, their votes are illegal. What do you mean they're illegal? Because they're black?
Right.
People voting because you guys ignored them. You didn't poll them. You didn't know they were coming because most black people don't even take the damn census. So you didn't even know those people were there. You didn't even know these votes were coming. So now they're illegal because you didn't know how to. You didn't even bother to try to find out how to get to these voters.
But see, that's the thing about us understanding this moment and us understanding how powerful we are and understanding that, like you said, we have to hold them accountable, but also make sure that we have our command of demands, because when it hit the fan, 90,000 new black people voted. Again, we had the highest voter turnout in the state.
Well, we just don't need voters. We need educated voters.
Right.
Because you need to have people that have a core.
But you can have both. See, the thing is, you have to have both, because a lot of times, like, an educated voter is just an influencer, and so there's a lot of people who are gonna call me and say, "Hey, who should I vote for right now?" And so therefore, I'm the educated voter, but I have influence on other people. And so therefore, you just have to have influencers or people who they feel comfortable talking about those conversations with, who are informed about it. Like, we about to start talking about state representatives elections ASAP. Like, I already got a meeting for February 5th. We got city council coming up this year as well. Shoot, I think Felicia Moore might just announced that she gonna run against Keisha. So that means that the council president position is gonna be up this year. You know what I mean?
It doesn't stop.
It never stops, but it's us being educated on it.
I don't want to hear the word vote for I'm still getting those postcards in my mailbox, and I think
it's a thing though.
I'm traumatized.
It's here now.
I think about.
I feel like we gotta,
but we gotta keep going.
But we have to understand the business of it as well. We have to get involved in the business of voting.
Listen.
See, the business of voting is being aware that each campaign had over $100 million. So they had about $250 million into the state of Georgia.
But because people get it now. We say this on this show all the time. If you're not going to vote, because I've been trying to address this protest, and we don't need to vote people. I'm tired of them. I'm not addressing that anymore. If you don't get it, I'm done. We have to get to the point where you see what's coming next so that you're not caught off guard. Like, Brian Kemp is up for re-election next year. He's campaigning already. Donald Trump was campaigning for this 2020 election the day after he got elected in 2017. Like, you have to understand what's happening.
Agendas, man.
Those people are now lost. The Republicans are lost. They have no core. There's Trump Republicans and there's regular Republicans. There's a deep divide. They don't know where to go. They're going to have to appeal to black voters eventually.
All of them do, though. And that's why I say it's
But Brian
important.
Kemp still has yet to do that.
But because he's a racist. It's kind of hard to swallow that pride at some point. Right, it's kind of hard. Like,
with the Killer Mike thing, like, it wasn't genuine. That's why it didn't really work. Or, we don't know if it did work.
Yeah, we had a whole spiel about that.
It worked for Killer Mike and whatever his business propositions, opportunities were, which he does, do a lot for the young black community. But, sometimes you can help and hurt people at the same time. So, we have to be careful. But those are the things that we need to keep an eye on. Like, don't let this stuff go under the radar for so long. And then when it's time to vote, your last remembrance of Brian Kemp was, he met with Killer Mike. No. A lot of shit went on before and after that.
But that's about us controlling the content.
Sometimes, like, for a uninformed voter to see, he was with Killer Mike. If Killer Mike my favorite rapper, he was with him. He cool.
But see that's why I think I think that's when I put the accountability on myself. You know what I mean? And
because you're gonna be able to reach a whole bunch of people that maybe somebody like that's my age. Because people look at you, somebody your guys' age might look at me like as the parent, and those are the people that you don't listen to. So I always give everybody the same amount of respect, because you might not be able to reach somebody that I might, and vice versa.
Definitely.
But we both have the same agenda.
And that's, again, understanding the audiences as well, and understanding how we work together.
So
that's one of the things. Sorry to interrupt, but like, I would just want to big up Scotty for because he is very connected in the community, in the sense of he makes everybody feel like they're important, because they are. And I've seen him work miracles, literally by just making a few phone calls, because he is able to influence people. He's able to use his charisma or whatever he needs to for that situation to get things done. And I've seen him, like, once again, send kids to prom. I've seen him, like, even just, I've been with this dude and he'll get a random text, somebody in the community needs help.
Right.
And like, it gets done. So, like, even like when ain't no cameras around, like when it's just like us, like that's one of the reasons you see him winning. And I want people to see that because we live in a world of fakeness. Like this dude right here is winning because he's real. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And like even the Smart Foundation, like we making it cool to be smart, and he's using the influence of peers. Like you know what I'm saying? If I think it's cool to be smart, I can teach somebody else. Hey, it's cool not to be a dumbass.
And he's in good company because whenever you see him, he's with older people, the elders in the community, the attorney Griggs and such, and so that whole thing to me is just admirable. Like you know, you have everything that you need to make the community move forward. The younger voice, the elder, everything. So make sure you guys follow Scotty. I wanted to just talk about one more thing before we left, and that's these executive orders that were passed.
Okay.
I know y'all out here making jokes about you need just STEMI right away. Well, guess what? He's trying to get that STEMI, and you know the Republicans are already putting a wrench in it, but we're the majority now. Well, I say we, the Democrats, because I don't really like to identify with either one.
Right.
It's like whoever's gonna get done what I need to get done, go ahead and get it done.
That's fair.
But they're trying to stop it, but I don't think it's gonna work. So one thing that he's done, he's called for assistance for those who are struggling to afford food, and we've seen that. Speed up manufacturing and distribution of supplies for vaccinations, testing, and PPE. We're still in the middle of a pandemic, y'all. I know if you look on social media, you see Atlanta and Houston and all the, it's open and everybody's at the club and it's still. And there's a new variant of this virus, and it's easier to transmit. So like, y'all, please. Direct FEMA to expand reimbursement to states to fully. Y'all, it's coming out more and more every day, but the more I find out, the more I'm like, oh my God. Y'all, this man left office with no plan. It's like there was no plan for the distribution of this vaccine. Do y'all realize that? He left y'all for dead. Do you know that? All you wanted was to be able to run around and call black people bad names and build a wall to keep the Mexicans out, and you ended up killing 400-something people. Thanks, people that voted for Trump. Are y'all serious? He left y'all, and there was no plan. Operation Warp Speed, make the vaccine. Okay, it's made, but they had no way to distribute it. How much sense did that make? So now we have a new strain, and the old strain is still going around, and we're just out here like, he left y'all for dead. So now, okay, that's one of the executive orders. Require mask wearing.
All federal buildings.
Airports. The train. The bus. I don't know why he had to tell y'all that, but now it's a law. Establish health equity task force. He's done that already. Launch a 100-day mask challenge, asking Americans to wear a mask for 100 days. What is it about wearing a mask that bothers people? I think that's one of the things that you talk about, ego.
Defiance.
Y'all are corny. Y'all are super duper corny.
Americans have a problem being told what to do.
Americans are narcissistic.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
We've been primed to believe that since the founding of this country.
Yeah,
we're just
we really have a problem being told. Like
the same thing that they're doing, the same thing that those people are doing to black people, they're doing to themselves unknowingly. Yeah. And you're dying and you're getting sick because of it.
And that's the irony of it all. It's kind of like, you know, the same thing make you laugh, make you cry. And there's a lot of people crying now, sadly, you know, because we are in a pandemic and we just got to do whatever we need to, you know, make this a better place for everybody instead of one group of people.
No reality hit you worse than death.
There's an
OSHA. Die.
Yeah, for sure.
Somebody die around here. You're gonna be all right.
Guidance on COVID-19, granting them power to establish emergency temporary workplace standards and enforce worker health and safety requirements.
I think that's huge.
As it stands right now, your boss might be, you know, one of those. I don't care if you wear a mask either, but this is gonna stop all that. I can't believe that we have to do this. I mean, it's just like,
It's,
and then like even you saw all this happen, and you still were like, I'm a Republican. Even Brett Raffensperger and his guy, what's his name? I always forget his name.
I know you're talking about.
They were all here getting threatened, and they was just like, well, I'm still a Republican, so I have to vote. You guys, oh my God, this is crazy.
I mean, but it's integrity. It's being willing to stand up against.
And we're gonna rejoin the Paris Climate Accord.
Big one, huge.
I mean, like, what made you get out of it in the first place? You think that like at the borders where the air stops and where the environment stops, like we have our own environment in this country, and is this guy? Oh, anyway, okay.
Corporate dollars is
Yeah, because now you take that away, you don't have to account for any of it, so you can drill and you can do this and you can make your money, and people can still get sick and still die. We lived in the Gulf Coast and all those oil refineries whenever they didn't have to meet up the standards, and then the oil started leaking in the ocean, and all of a sudden you go to the beach and you got an oil ring around your leg. It's ridiculous. All right, so more COVID-19. Stop the U.S. withdrawal from the World Health Organization. Dr. Anthony Fauci is the head of the U.S. delegation of the World Health Organization. So now Dr. Fauci can tell the truth.
Yeah. I think most people don't realize too how this administration is walking into a bunch of zero protocol. They're having to rebuild a lot of organizations. They're having to literally make game plans for stuff that hadn't been done for the last 4 years.
Okay, and here's another thing. Rescind we talked about this earlier, executive order. Rescind the Trump administration's 1776 commission, which promoted patriotic education in the U.S., direct agencies to review the 1776 Commission's actions and ensure racial equality. It's not 1776, people. We've been here. We're not going anywhere. Get used to it. Sorry. Our votes aren't illegal. We're not going back to 1776. None of that shit is happening. Move on. The census. Require non-citizens to be included in the census. What else? Immigration. Reverse Muslim ban from 7 Muslim countries. Can you believe that? We had to do that?
Being in Africa, by the way.
Yeah.
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 They were purposely trying to keep niggas out.
They were purposely trying to keep black people out. Immigration, more. Extend deferral of deportation and work authorizations for Liberians with a safe haven. This is just...
They wouldn't allow war victims to come seek solitude in this country.
So on day one, the first week, this is some of the stuff that Biden has done. You saw his desk. It had executive orders like this. I don't want to hear anybody say he didn't do anything right away. He did.
Well, they're going to say that he didn't do anything for black people right away. But some of that does.
It does affect
it
black
does.
people.
Some of it does. But that's going to be the...
Even with like the shit Obama was doing, it was like, oh, it wasn't specifically for black people, but black people benefited. Like, so it's just like, man.
I mean, some of it's direct. We definitely want to see some more criminal justice reform.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
And some harsher, I mean, things like it should be mandatory for them to wear body cameras at all times.
Absolutely.
And they shouldn't have any access to control and turn on or off. I think that should be a federal thing. That would help with the big disparity in the stories that are told when police brutality happens. Is either that's the biggest thing. Like right now, we're fighting with the Vincent Truitt situation. Is now they don't want to release the tape. It's like, all right, well,
they should be made to release the tape.
Exactly. It's about the transparency. If you want us to trust you, you should be transparent.
Cobb County is notorious for.
That's where Vincent Truitt is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, but at the same time, we have to be able to understand how all of this relates to one another. And so, therefore, we have to be able to say, okay, we just had a very, very strong voter turnout. But also, Tim Cox, I think is he the district attorney, I believe, in the area? Or he might be the police chief. I'm not sure.
In Cobb County?
He just got elected.
Yeah, I believe so.
He's black, right?
Yeah,
black.
He's the first black sheriff.
Uh-huh. But at the same time, hold them accountable. Be able to, and I think that's the biggest thing we have to engage with our voting power is to now take it into a personal and more of a local elected official phase, because these people who decide whether or not, like you have judges that decide whether or not, white supremacists get a slap on the wrist or get real jail time. If they're letting them out with these little slaps on the wrist, then next time they're up for election, we need to be on top of it, and we need to be able to hold them accountable. So we have to be able to understand the power in local voting and what really matters and how it affects our lives. And I think that's the educational tool in voting to get people to really be as informed or want to take part in it, is to understand, like, who do you talk to when your water bill is higher than what you think it should have been,
Right.
Or,
we talked about that too.
it's just about being able to hold people accountable, but knowing what positions tie into what, and who are the elected officials that you have to voice your opinions to. And then being able to really, and see, that's the thing that puts some of us in especially with all the voting thing, is that when you can influence votes, then you really have even stronger power. And most elected officials know that.
Man, y'all, we got a long road ahead, but I feel more confident knowing that we have young black men like you guys on the front lines.
I appreciate that.
So we got to thank you. Come back whenever you want, you guys. I really, really need that energy.
Whenever I'm invited, I'm with it. Hey,
you have an open invitation, sir. I tell you that all the time. I tell Attorney Griggs that all the time. Like, whenever there's something that you guys need to bring attention to. Mayor Keisha is going to have a new role in the Democratic Party. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes, because she's also up for re-election for the Atlanta mayor. It doesn't end, y'all. We're going to be here talking and keeping these conversations going. Make sure you check out some of our previous episodes, because we talk about all this stuff all the time. But it's like a never-ending thing. We're not like, okay, we voted, let's just get everything we want. You have to make sure that people are held accountable. Every 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we got to keep voting and being engaged. Scotty, tell everybody where to follow you.
I'm always on Instagram. That's the best place to contact me. It's Change Creator Smart, all one word. That's my Instagram handle. I got a little bit of that'll be it. Let's just give that one. So Change Creator Smart will be the IG, and then everything else is on that page.
And make sure you guys follow us too on Instagram, CTD_ATL. Make sure you get your candles from So Mississippi. J Black, you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
Nah, man, good show. Very great conversation. Definitely appreciate you coming on and just speaking about what you had going on, and tune in.
Yeah, keep you guys informed. Make sure you check us out wherever you listen to your podcast, or if you just want to look at us, you can look at us on YouTube, and you can also check innovativeblackstation.com. I am Kymmy Coco signing out for this week. We will see you guys next week. Make sure that you keep up with what's going on, and also get involved in some of the events that are going on in your community, because as a small community, as a collective, we will get everything that we need to get done. All right, y'all. Have a good week. Peace.